What's going on, everyone? In this video, we're going to be doing the weekly recap of the stocked up trading floor. As has been the story of the year, another new week and more new all-time highs. The S&P pushed higher again this week, even with the shutdown news, which is good, but at the same time, we certainly are seeing some pretty big increases in volatility in some areas of the market, like Palantir. Either way, it should be an exciting week, and let's not waste any time and get right to it. Starting off with the high-risk breakouts, looking at Monday, September 29th, there was pretty good action with Hood, APP, and PayPal. These popped up by 392%, 156%, and 131%. There was also good action with Shopify, Tilray, MU, and a handful of other tickers where we saw some nice moves of 80% to 36%. But of course, and always, there were a handful of duds thrown in there as well. I would say overall it was a pretty good week. We definitely saw some pretty solid moves this week. Continuing on to the 30th, we can see we especially saw some crazy movement out of Pfizer as these calls popped up by 618%. But we also had some really good action with DraftKings, MRK, Dell, and others. Lots of really good movement on this day. Lots of good action with other stocks as well. And then there were a handful of duds as well. So overall, really good action with the top few. And then, of course, just normal duds thrown in there as well. Continuing on to October 1st. I would say overall more good action. LLY popped up by 676%. That is crazy. MRK also had some good moves with 632% gains. BMY 244%. Dell 223%. Micron 202%. And so on. Even like MSTR had a good move in there. And of course, a handful of duds thrown in as well. But I would say overall, really solid day. You know, there were only 4 plays that moved up by less than 20%. And the rest just got bigger and bigger. So good stuff there. Looking on October 2nd, I would say more good volatility. Oxy, Rigetti, Coinbase, and others did very well. I would say this day was a little bit slower than usual, than the rest of the days this week, just given we didn't see any like 600% gainers, and like in the top 3 it was 400%, 429%, 173%, and 119%, where the previous day it was just, you know, a little bit more explosive. But even with this, it's hard to critique it too much. You know, pretty decent action. And then looking on Friday, it wasn't as crazy as other days this week, but good action nonetheless. I would say there were more duds than other days, but at the same time, we still did see some pretty good movement out of like Teladoc, Shopify, Palantir, and others. So good stuff there. Shifting into the pullback section, these setups will not be as crazy as breakouts because the best setups don't pull back. So looking at these, I would say pretty slow, mostly duds for this week. Continuing on to like October 1st, you know, LOY had a good move, and like MSTR and MU, decent moves, but really nothing too crazy here. You know, it was a week of just like very powerful breakouts, and that's great because, you know, it just offers just like great asymmetric movement. But at the same time, it's like the strongest breakouts don't pull back. So I guess that's the downside. When the week is just so strong in the breakout side, then just the pullback opportunities are not as good. But there's trade-offs to everything, and you know, some environments will be better for certain strategies, and that is just the nature of the beast, we can say. So that is the recap for hybrid this week. And then jumping into the theta recap, 3 out of 4 theta trades for this week expired for max profit. The DraftKings put option expired in the money. So with shorting put options, this strategy is intended for situations where you are happy to own shares of the company. When you short put options, it's great because you get paid to buy shares of a company that you like at a price that you like. And this is great not only because you have an embedded edge with the volatility risk premium, but also because just the nature of potentially having to buy shares at what are most likely pretty good prices on a stock that you're happy to own for the long term is a winning proposition over the long term, as long as the company you are selling the puts on is, you know, it's not like some like crappy penny stock. As long as it's like a good company and you're happy to own it for the long term, it makes it a winning proposition. Shorting put options is something that we always talk about because even though it is not as exciting as, a potential day trade where you can make 200%, it is much safer, smoother, consistent, and easier. And not only that, learning about how to more intelligently navigate the options chain offers so many benefits. Like when you look into shorting options and using spreads and maybe even some delta hedging and other stuff, you can really truly utilize the options market to your advantage, because a lot of people, naturally just naturally default to thinking, buy calls if you think the stock's going to go up and buy puts if you think the stock's going to go down, when in reality, that is not necessarily the case. There are multiple ways to really maximize, you could just say, how you set up your positions to get into more favorable and certainly more capital efficient trades. So that's why we always like to bring this up. As always, if you need any help, feel free to message Tom, Mason, Hunter, or myself in SM chat. But besides that, thank you for watching and have a great rest of your weekend.